WNBA Finals ratings are in for game number 1.
When are numbers not what the numbers are when you see them? Oh, sure feels like there might be some funny business going on. Is there a little nasty work going on behind the scenes? A little abracadabra bewitched action? Stephanie White knows this one. Yeah, she's conjuring up ratings for the Aces and the Mercury.
ESPN delivered a headline that should have been a crowning moment. The WNBA Finals opener had supposedly drawn an average of 1.9 million viewers, with a peak climbing to 2.5 million. This was the biggest finals audience since the league's inaugural year, a record nearly 27 years in the making. The press releases were immediate and glowing, celebrating a historic moment for women's basketball and massive organic growth. But from the moment those numbers hit the wire, a collective doubt spread across the sports world. It was a historic number, yet the event itself was culturally invisible. This was the first undeniable red flag. How could a game watched by millions of people feel like a secret? A dangerous seed of suspicion was planted, hinting at a manufactured success story, an illusion engineered to hide a far more fragile truth.
WNBA Finals opener is the most watched since league's inaugural year, I believe in 1997. That means it took nearly 27 years to get to this point. 27 years to get to this point. So they started out on a high, and it's just been...
The massive viewership claim was immediately contradicted by the sound of absolute silence.
I saw these ratings and went, my first literal response, oh, that's bullshit. My first response. Literally the first thing out of my mouth was, well, that's bullshit.
Normally, a record-shattering event ignites a firestorm of discussion. Highlights flood social media, every sports debate show obsesses over the minutia, and viral clips are inescapable. But with the WNBA Finals opener, crickets. Radio hosts skipped right over it. Popular sports segments on major networks barely even touched the box score. There were no trending hashtags, no "did you see that moment" blowing up online. Even devoted fans confessed they hadn't realized the series had started. The data was screaming superstar event, but the atmosphere whispered local telecast. This profound disconnect became the engine driving the entire controversy. It screamed that the viewers the league was claiming were not engaged, active fans. They were ghosts. The desperation to explain this phantom audience quickly led analysts to one source: a change in the fundamental rules of television measurement. Earlier this year, Nielsen, the arbiter of TV ratings, had quietly shifted to a new system called the Big Data Plus panel. This wasn't a minor update, it was a total overhaul of the ratings currency.
Nielsen methodology change. A key factor in 2025 is a change in Nielsen's methodology to include Big Data Plus panel, which incorporates out-of-home viewing, a change that generally results in higher reported viewership for all sports broadcasts compared to previous years. Critics argue that some reported year-over-year growth may be partially attributable to this methodological change, which is not always clearly noted in press releases. Of course, not noted in this year's press release.
For decades, viewership relied on a physical panel, a select group of households with a meter. This new system, however, was a digital Frankenstein, blending traditional meters with massive amounts of digital signal data from smart TVs and streaming devices. The industry was told this was an innovation to capture a fuller picture of the modern audience, but what it truly became was a statistical weapon, capable of inflating totals for any broadcast that needed a narrative boost. The timing of this mandatory league-wide data change, just as the WNBA entered its most critical phase, felt less like coincidence and more like a carefully executed strategy. The key component of this new methodology, the factor that exposed the entire illusion, was the inclusion of out-of-home viewing. This is where the viewers were manufactured. Now, a person catching a momentary glimpse of the game on a screen in a public venue was tallied as a viewer.
I go listen to sports radio. I'm not getting any WNBA Finals. I'll turn on ESPN. I'm not getting any WNBA Finals. I'll turn on Fox Sports 1. I'm not getting any WNBA Finals. Nowhere I look do I see people really discussing the WNBA Finals. And ESPN spits out 1.9 million viewers. Are these silent viewers? They very well may be.
Think about that. You walk past a terminal in an airport, glance up at a TV showing the game in the corner of a sports bar, or happen to be on a treadmill near a screen in the gym. You are counted. 20 people in a bar, 5 of whom are actually watching, are suddenly counted as 20 engaged viewers. The WNBA was not measuring passionate fan activity. It was measuring passive proximity to a screen.
How does it happen when literally nobody is talking about the actual final?
This was not genuine interest. It was statistical sleight of hand. The 1.9 million figure suddenly wasn't a testament to the league's growth. It was a testament to the sheer number of publicly placed television sets across the country. The fact that these record-breaking numbers were reported exclusively by ESPN and not the independent auditor was the most damning evidence of a potential financial collusion. ESPN and its parent company Disney are one of the WNBA's largest and most crucial broadcast partners. Their reputation and the profitability of their ad inventory are directly tied to the league's perceived success. If the WNBA looks strong, ESPN looks like a brilliant investor. If the league struggles, the partnership looks like a bad bet.
I'm waiting for the official Nielsen ratings. ESPN likes to do some funny math. You can't find those numbers anywhere else. Every AI lists ESPN as the source, not Nielsen. Last time I checked, ESPN isn't in the ratings business. They're reporting their own ratings. Why did it take so long to put this out? I'm suspicious. Amazing for a game that couldn't even sell out.
This inherent conflict of interest means ESPN is not a neutral reporter of data. They are a financial stakeholder controlling a narrative that directly affects their bottom line. The goal was not honest reporting, it was to create an attractive story for advertisers and to leverage higher figures in the next round of television rights negotiations, which stand to be worth hundreds of millions of dollars. The network's calculated reluctance to provide the raw data only deepened the suspicion. In the world of television, every official rating is accompanied by a publicly released Nielsen citation code, allowing analysts to verify the figures and see the breakdown of demographics and methodology. For the WNBA Finals opener, that official receipt was missing. The press release was the only source. This strategic withholding of the data was seen as a move to prevent the public from seeing the true breakdown, specifically how much of that 1.9 million was comprised of the new, easily inflated out-of-home category. Analysts quickly termed this a manufactured headline, designed to prevent the numbers from unraveling under basic scrutiny, giving the perception of success without the burden of proof. To understand the panic, you must look at the WNBA's recent history. For years, the league was stuck in a ratings purgatory. The finals game in 2019, just a few short years ago, averaged a miserable 238,000 viewers, a record low that represented the league's rock bottom. Between 2008 and the recent boom, no WNBA game, not a regular season contest, not a playoff game, had consistently topped the 1 million viewer mark. The league was not enjoying a steady climb. It had been stagnant, struggling, and on the financial fringes of professional sports. This historical context reveals the immense pressure on the league's executives. The massive sudden spike in valuation, with franchises now worth hundreds of millions, required a ratings justification that the organic numbers simply could not provide. Amidst the murky data, one figure stood as an undeniable measure of genuine organic interest: Caitlin Clark. She was the ultimate yardstick of authenticity. The most damning comparison was not to last year's finals, but to her own playoff games from the season prior. Clark's early round matchup, a game that was not a finals contest, pulled in a peak audience of 3.4 million viewers. The crucial difference? Those numbers were predominantly measured under the old, uninflated panel-only system. Her viewership was based on fans actively seeking out and tuning into the broadcast at home. The conclusion was unavoidable. Clark's popularity was organic. The finals' alleged record was engineered. The league was trying to claim collective growth, while silently relying on the residual ripple effect of a single-player phenomenon whose star power simply couldn't be fabricated. The timing of the finals was also critical. Clark's team had been eliminated from the playoffs. Her departure meant the Clark effect, the guaranteed spike in engagement, attendance, and social media buzz, had slowed. The 2025 finals, featuring two other excellent teams, was supposed to be the proof that the new audience had stuck around. It was the league's chance to demonstrate sustainability, but the lack of buzz proved the opposite. The league was desperately attempting to use the new methodology to create an illusion of momentum and permanent audience conversion. They were trying to convince advertisers and future media partners that the massive increase in value was league-wide and lasting, rather than a temporary player-driven surge. The impact of this voodoo accounting extends far beyond headlines. It hits the players directly. The WNBA is currently valued in the billions, and its next collective bargaining agreement, CBA, is approaching. Owners are using these alleged record numbers to project immense growth. But if those numbers are inflated, they serve to suppress player salaries. The owners claim the league is still finding its footing, while simultaneously reporting historical revenue and viewership. Inflated ratings create a smokescreen that allows the league to maintain the narrative of growth necessary for massive valuations without forcing owners to grant players the commensurate share of that revenue. The players are being forced to fight for their cut against ghost viewers who exist only on a spreadsheet. This controversy isn't merely about basketball, it's a damning case study in modern media integrity. Analysts have called this a data mirage, where a network and a league bound by financial ties collaborate to create a perception of success that overrides reality. The fact that the story was swallowed whole by many major news outlets, who simply repeated ESPN's press release without independent verification, highlights how easily a well-crafted marketing spin can become accepted as truth. It exposed a systemic flaw. How can we trust any rating when the financial incentive to lie or manipulate the metric is so massive? The phrase "counting ghosts" became a rallying cry for fans who realized they were being asked to believe in a manufactured myth. The longer ESPN and the WNBA remained silent, the worse the fallout became. Instead of a celebration, the ratings turned into an object of ridicule and a source of deep fan frustration. This was particularly damaging because it wasn't coming from casual critics. It was coming from loyal, diehard fans who had supported the league through its darkest years. They wanted progress, not propaganda. They felt insulted that the league would sacrifice the authenticity they had slowly built for a cheap, temporary headline. The backlash caused an irreversible crack in the league's credibility, forcing fans and players alike to question everything: future attendance figures, sponsorship deals, and even the basic honesty of the league's front office. The victory headline had morphed into a full-blown crisis of trust. The WNBA's attempt to celebrate a record-breaking finals opener ultimately achieved the opposite of its goal. It showcased not the league's strength, but its fragility, and exposed the extraordinary lengths to which both the league and its primary broadcaster would go to manipulate perception. The inflated numbers, the lack of transparency, and the deafening silence all pointed to a desperation to prove sustainability where none yet exists. At the heart of it all stands Caitlin Clark, the one figure whose popularity cannot be fabricated. Her shadow, cast by authentic, record-setting, uninflated viewership, served as a constant, humiliating reminder of what genuine engagement actually looks like. The WNBA doesn't need technicalities and statistical tricks. It needs honesty, because no amount of clever data manipulation can cover up the absence of a real, passionate connection. The ghost fans have been counted, and their silence has spoken the loudest truth of all. What started as a victory lap became a public unmasking. The WNBA's so-called historic 1.9 million viewer moment will forever stand as a cautionary tale. Proof that in the modern media ecosystem, perception can be bought, but authenticity cannot. The league and its broadcast partners wanted a symbol, a number big enough to silence critics and impress investors. But instead of inspiring confidence, they awakened a movement of skeptical fans who refused to be fooled. The ghost viewers they invented became the ghosts haunting their credibility. Because real fandom doesn't exist in spreadsheets or statistical shadows. It lives in conversation, in emotion, in that electric pulse that no algorithm can fabricate. What the WNBA truly revealed wasn't record-breaking growth. It was a desperate industry grasping for relevance in a world that now demands transparency. And now the reckoning begins. If the league wants to earn respect, it must stop chasing illusions and start rebuilding faith. Brick by brick, game by game. Viewer, the truth may hurt, but it's the only foundation strong enough to carry the future. So when history looks back on this moment, it won't see a triumph. It'll see a turning point. The day the numbers lied and the fans refused to stay silent. Because no matter how many ghost viewers they count, the silence of real people will always tell the louder story. If you believe sports deserve truth over spin, if you believe players, fans, and even leagues deserve honesty more than hype, make your voice heard. Tap like if you're tired of media manipulation. Share this video with a friend who still believes every headline they read. And comment below, do you think the WNBA's ratings were inflated, or do you believe they truly earned that record? Your voice matters more than their data. The only way to keep sports real is to keep asking the questions they don't want answered. And if you want to keep pulling back the curtain on the stories corporate media won't touch, subscribe and hit the notification bell. Because every week we go deeper, exposing the hidden numbers, the buried motives, and the truths that shape the games you love. Because in a world obsessed with perception, we chase reality. And sometimes reality is the most shocking stat of all.